Nobody in their right mind would ever take a set of CDJs to Burning Man. It's just so hot and the dust just gets into everything. Yeah, I would never take my CDJs to Burning Man. But for the right price, I'd let someone else do it. Yes, that's right. I sent not one, not two, not three, but 4 CDJ 2000 Nexus units out to the desert for a week and pretty much hoped that when they came back, I'd be able to clean them up so that none of the dust would actually damage any of the electronics and the circuitry inside. Long story short, this environment is incredibly dangerous for electronics due to the nature of the playa dust that the entire place is made out of. So follow along, because in this video, I'm going to take these CDJs and see if I can reform them to their former glory. Before we embark on this journey, we're gonna need a few supplies. Compressed air is a must, and if you don't have a shop compressor, these single-use cans of compressed air will do just fine, as long as you keep them upright. I elected to grab a few empty spray bottles, one for my distilled water and one for my distilled water and vinegar solution. Isopropyl alcohol is important because it displaces any water that we're going to use in the cleaning process. Even though most of the components on these circuit boards are water resistant, it's nice to have the alcohol there to displace the water and evaporate quickly. And then the contact cleaner I'll use on things like flex cable and the fader. Can't go wrong with a pair of very soft toothbrushes and microfiber towels. Now, this spray detailing wax isn't necessary, but I feel like it helps shine up the plastic a little bit at the end. The only real tools you'll need is a pair of Phillips head screwdrivers. One medium-sized one and one smaller one will do just fine, or you can get a little electronics repair kit like the iFixit one. And finally, of course, nitrile gloves, because safety first. Once you've assembled all of your tools and found a suitable workspace, we'll start by dusting off the exterior. Even though this feels like an obvious step, it's important. This dust is really just microscopic rock, and we need to remove as much of it as possible without actually physically touching the surface. There are 5 screws on the bottom and 2 screws on the back that allow us to clamshell open the CDJ unit itself. Be careful and make sure that when you're disassembling to remove all of the flex cable attachments. Screw by screw, we're going to remove all the circuit boards and make sure to put all the plastic buttons in a safe space for us to clean later so you don't lose them. There are about 120 screws that stand between us and completely disassembling this CDJ. Remember, we got to be super careful when we're taking these things apart. But not really. This is the LCD from inside of the CDJ screen unit, I guess. And you can see dust actually got underneath all that plastic and into what's supposed to be pretty much a sealed shut part of the unit. Here's another example of how the dust can really get into places you wouldn't expect. This is the underside of the entire screen assembly, where like your USB buttons and SD card buttons are. So all this dust got underneath here, and that all has to be cleaned out with the toothbrush and vinegar and distilled water solution. And then to make sure the water doesn't damage anything, you have to quickly go over it with the isopropyl alcohol, which displaces all the water and then evaporates quickly away. The most important part of this cleaning process is neutralizing the incredibly alkaline playa dust that has worked its way into really every nook and cranny of these boards. And if you remember anything from your 7th grade science class, you know that the only way to neutralize something that's alkaline is to clean it with an acid. To do this, I'm using a vinegar and distilled water solution that I've mixed up into a spray bottle here. I ended up using about 1 part white vinegar to 8 parts distilled water. After the vinegar spray down, I needed to remove all of that vinegar residue, and I did that by rinsing and spraying thoroughly with hot distilled water. And as I mentioned earlier, we used the isopropyl alcohol spray to displace any of the remaining water, and then the isopropyl alcohol just evaporates away very quickly. And then any areas that had bare metal contacts, I would spray down with the contact cleaner. So I went ahead and put all of the plastic components, all the little light guides. These basically just act as little pathways for the LEDs on the PCB to reach the surface. This is the reverse light up indicator. I'm just gonna let these soak in a warm water and vinegar solution that I made up earlier. So we're fast forwarding a bit here to next week. I had to leave to do a couple shows, but I decided to leave the CDJs open like this on the shelf to kind of help them air dry out any sort of residual moisture from the cleaning process. And now we're going to turn them on and see if it worked. And you can really see like the difference here on the cleanliness of the boards. It does look pretty much brand new. And you can see these are the CDJs that have the new version link port, which is kind of interesting if you don't realize that there's two versions of this panel and you go to repair one and you open it up and it's a totally different part number. So that was fun, personal experience. All right, let's clamshell this together and turn it on. And this is the first time I'm turning it on too, so we'll see if it still works. And look at that. And I think the only thing that really got damaged was these Q buttons, the Q and play. I don't know if you can see on there, but they kind of have lost their shine. But that's easy. Those are like, I think, $40 for the set for each of them. And yeah, that's not too bad. And I wanted to replace them anyways. I spent about 15 to 20 minutes running through all of the features on these two decks that I cleaned up, just making sure that all the inputs and outputs work, all of the pressure sensitive jog wheels work as they should, the pitch faders give the right readings that they're supposed to, all the buttons are clicky, all the lights are lighting up, and of course that the link function is working. I'm really happy with how this whole cleaning project turned out. As long as you know what you're getting into from the beginning and you have a pretty decent knowledge about electronics, I wouldn't sway anybody away from sending their equipment to Burning Man. Of course, you're taking a risk when you do this, and if this is your only set of CDJs or you need them to absolutely 100% work when they come back, then maybe I would say don't do this. But I'm in the position where I have a decent enough rental stock to where even if this set came back completely destroyed, I'd be able to fulfill my rentals until I figured out how to get a replacement. I would definitely rent to other camps in the future, and it really just comes down to your personal risk assessment and the amount of time you want to spend cleaning the equipment. As we know, time is money, and I would not charge a normal rental rate for a Burning Man rental. From start to finish for each CDJ, I would at least allocate 4 hours for cleaning. So whatever your hourly time is worth, multiply that by 4, and then maybe tack on a little bit of extra padding and add that to your rental rate, and there's your Burning Man rental rate. To be honest, the only thing I really didn't touch was the CD drive. The reason being that these are pretty self-contained units, and the CD drives were actually taped up when they were being used at Burning Man. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. I know it was definitely satisfying for me to see this all come together and see everything get cleaned up. And if you get a chance, make sure to go down to the description down below this video and check out my social media links. A lot of times the stuff that you see on this YouTube channel is a little bit delayed because my schedule doesn't really allow for a whole lot of editing time. But if you check out my Instagram, Snapchat, Patreon, all that stuff, you'll get to see this stuff as it happens. And if you're not a subscriber to my channel, do me a favor, click that red subscribe button. It really helps me out. And if you have questions or ideas about videos regarding the production industry, make sure to leave them down below in the comments, or if you'd like to get in touch with me otherwise, my email is down there as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.